And Jennifer Grace, welcome to A Cup of Clarity. I am so thrilled to have you here with me today.
I am so thrilled to be here with you today. This is so much fun.
How are you? It's been a while since we've had a chance to connect.
I've been great. I am living the dream. My boyfriend and I decided to sell our furniture, pack up everything in storage since my son just went off to college,
That's
and
right.
just kind of let the wind take us. So we were on the ocean for a few months. Now we're in the Carolinas on the lake, off next to Mallorca in Spain for the summer. So
Incredible.
having a blast.
That's
Why not, right?
amazing. Of course, it's like you always say, YOLO, right? You only live once. I remember learning that from you many years ago. Do it while you can.
I know.
Besides the fact that you've been my mentor, you're my friend, and I just love you dearly. I'm excited to have you here because of just the wealth of knowledge that you bring to today's topic. Not just because you wrote a whole darn book on it, but because you teach it and you live it in your life every single day. So I wanted to start with just asking you before we get into it. I like to always ask my guests what you are grateful for in this day in particular. So, what are you grateful for today, Jen?
I think I'm just grateful for 360-degree views of water. And it is so soothing. I can't always get outside because I'm working, so I definitely get out twice a day. But just to have this beauty surrounding me in nature is the greatest gift. I'm so, so grateful for it.
I love it. Absolutely. And so I titled today's episode Directing Your Destiny after your amazing book that you wrote and was published by Hay House years ago, where in it you teach us how to be the writer, producer, and director of our dreams. And I know you have such a great story about how you came to find your purpose in life and your journey. And I just would love it if you would start with that because it is a really great
Sure.
story.
Yeah, let's see, I think it really started when I exited my divorce, as well as my work as a filmmaker and an actress. And there was a calling for something else. And I just wasn't clear about what that might be. And so I embarked on, really just trying to find my purpose. And I remember starting like 6 companies and making 6 logos and 6 websites. Is your puppy home?
Both of yes, my two rescues, and I was going to say I wish I could say that this podcast is being broadcast from a really nice studio somewhere in a very luxurious
Yeah,
place, but no, it's being
listen, it's
broadcast from
COVID.
home.
That's it.
Yes.
So there I was, like starting all of these amazing businesses, but I was kind of all over the place and I was listening to what everybody else thought that I would be really good at. And
Right.
ultimately, I had 6 failures on my hands because I spread myself too thin and I really wasn't tuning in to what I wanted. And so then yeah,
It
hit a
was.
brick
I
wall of
remember
frustration.
there's a part in your book, and I'm trying to find it, and I should have bookmarked it, but you said, oh, here it was. You said you were trying to create what I love, a film called A Life of Purpose and Destiny. And instead, it was called One Hot Mess. But let me tell you, it was a beautiful hot mess because it led you
Yes,
exactly to where you are today. And sometimes I think we need to deviate from the path, left or right, and sort of see what we don't want in order to become clear on what it is we really, really want so that we can put all of our energy and
yeah,
time and effort into going after it, right? So, Jen, for
exactly.
somebody who may have stumbled on this episode today, which I always say there are no coincidences, but and they know and they feel like there's something more inside, much like you knew there was something you were kind of meant to do, and but they don't know how to follow that or where to start. What would be the
Mhm.
first step in directing their destiny?
I think the perfect thing is the title of your podcast is A Cup
Ah,
of Clarity, right? And it's just to get clear. And so many times we're out here, and we're listening to what other people are doing. And then we're kind of multitasking. We're on Facebook and Twitter and, shopping and working and eating and Netflix.
Yeah.
And we're so out that we can't hear that voice of wisdom that has exactly the right,
What we need.
path that we need to do. So I think starting with clarity, and that's all about just tuning in and taking quiet time, whether it's, taking a walk in the park every day or on the beach, journaling down your thoughts, meditating, talking to a friend or a coach, just to hear yourself out loud and to create time and space for that inquiry of like, who am I? And what do I really want? Asking those deeper questions.
Yeah. And it was about maybe 10, 11 years ago that you and I met through a mutual friend. And I remember her telling me time and time again, you need to meet my friend Jennifer Grace. You two have to connect with each other. She's fabulous and she's going to know exactly how to help you with what you need. And I was at that point in my life. I had just kind of gotten divorced. I was going through that sort of what's next for me. And I
Yeah.
knew there was something, and we met, and sure enough, you were fabulous. And sure enough, you knew how to help me. And I took your course, the Creative Insight Journey, which was really a great path for me because I knew at that moment in those 8 weeks that coaching was something that I was really meant to do. And I'll tell you, it was the first time that I had come to learning about mindfulness as a practice. And in your
Mhm.
book, you have mindfulness, meditation, which you just mentioned, and journaling as sort of like the first chapter. Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit more about those three practices and why they're so important at the beginning of our journey.
Yeah. So I think we hear the word mindfulness a lot. And so like, what does that even mean in the first
Mhm.
place? And a good definition is mindfulness is the art of paying attention to the present moment with an openness, a
Right.
curiosity, and a non-attachment or judgment to
Mhm.
what is, just kind of being the objective observer. And all three of those tools, mindfulness, meditation, and journaling, all give you that moment of taking a step outside of yourself, whether you're taking a step outside of yourself in meditation and noticing your thoughts,
Mm.
or you're putting your thoughts onto the page and now you're becoming the objective observer of your thoughts, or in the present moment just to say, that this isn't good or bad, right or wrong, like this is what is. I'm in this current relationship, I am currently doing this for a living. And if we can take a moment back instead of beating ourselves up, judging our situations, trying to fix or change them, make them wrong, it just builds upon the confusion. So to first, really take, like, almost put on a lab coat and become the scientist of yourself.
I like that.
Right? At your life is good or bad or right or wrong. It just is or isn't, and just doing that kind of like, where am I? Who am I? What do I want? What's working? What's not working? And doing that personal inventory using mindfulness, meditation, and journaling as practical tools to do that deep inquiry, that objective observation, just to kind of check in to see where you're at. And then from there, you can go anywhere. But
Yeah.
where am I?
Right. I love that checking in with yourself. And I find it's interesting, something that you mentioned. We tend to have this need to label everything.
Mhm.
It's either this or it's that, and give it like a, I don't know, like a life of its own. And I think when we do that, when we're able to step back and just observe, it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to get to that state. And I think it was like Deepak Chopra that said that there are no right or wrong turns in life, just new paths. So if we can
Mm.
see that as it's not, this is not a right way or a wrong way, it's just a new direction.
Yeah.
It's like open to all the possibilities that can come our way, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
speaking of that, possibilities, I think, come through intentions. And you really talk about the power of setting intentions. You define an intention, and I'm going to quote the book, as an aim or purpose to do, be, or have something.
Hmm.
A goal or a dream, intentions are powerful thoughts that you intend to make a reality. And intentions are so important. Wayne Dyer wrote an entire book about it called The Power of Intention, which is fabulous. So, how do we write a proper intention?
Yeah. Well, I love to start first with what it is that we want to create in our lives after we've obviously gotten some clarity, right? And then once we've declared what it is that we want, close our eyes and actually visualize that. And then get more connected to the feeling that we will feel when that intention comes to fruition. So when I have my students curate their intentions, they always are in a little formula that's, I
Right?
feel blank that I am now blank. So the second blank is the goal. And the first blank is how you feel when you'll get to that goal. But I always start with the goal. And in the beginning, some people still aren't clear. So maybe it's just, I feel at peace that now I am clear of what my
Right.
life's purpose is. You can certainly make an intention of manifest clarity. And then as you get more specific, the intention starts to take momentum. But, we have the word, and it is so because we say so. And to
Mhm.
declare something is to really step into something. And when you declare something, it's important to not look for past evidence, because that can like
Yes.
ruin tremendous plans, right? Like when I declared that I would be a Hay House published author without having written one single word of the book that was in my head, without ever publishing an article, without ever even writing a blog, I don't even think. And then just to make this kind of audacious declaration that I would be on the number one, self-development
Publishing, yeah.
publishing, company was like kind of audacious. But I'm glad that I didn't look into my past for some evidence because there is none. I was not a published author. I didn't know anybody there. I had all these great reasons why it would never
It would
happen.
never work, right?
Yeah. So when you declare something, you want to declare it in the present moment. Do not look into the past for evidence. And you're just declaring from the present out into your future.
I love that, and I love that there's a formula that's easy. You talk in the book about writing about maybe working with 6 intentions at a time. Is there a magic number for 6, or is that just your personal preference?
No, I just, it's funny because after I'd been always teaching that. And then one day I looked it up because somebody asked me and I was like, well, what's the numerology of the number 6? And it was very harmonious, like
Yes,
number.
it is.
And I just kind of felt like 10 was too many, 2 or 3 not enough, and 6 was kind of like a nice number.
Right.
And, it's just this like, I have people put them on 3 by 5 cards.
That's
And it's a living, breathing thing. You could be reading them every day, and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't even
uh-huh.
want this anymore. I thought
That's
I
right.
wanted it. I want it. Rip it up, or wow, I've manifested this. And then I would always say, put a big V on it for
Be on it. I
victory.
remember that.
And then I've got like this stack of victory cards, and I'm like, okay, this works. Oh my gosh. And then
Yeah.
the belief system going, okay, I guess this works. Let's keep doing them.
So this leads me perfectly to the next thing I wanted to talk about. We get clear. We set our 6 intentions, right? Because now 6 is the magic number. We're feeling pretty good. We're saying, I think this can work. I can manifest the life that I dream of. And then we run in to the committee that lives in our
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
And in perfect Jennifer Grace fashion, you actually give them names, right?
Yeah.
The New York Times critic, Nasty Nancy, and
Mhm.
Miss Perfect. Tell
Yes.
us about each of those and how and how do we reprogram the negative belief system with us? Because that'll like just stop us dead in our tracks.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it's great to know that we all have these negative limiting voices inside of our.
Yes.
Sometimes we think we're the only ones, but it's a part of us, and they never take a permanent vacation to
No.
Hawaii. They're always, gonna be there. It's just they get quieter, and we really don't pay attention to them when we do the work more and more and more. But, the New York Times critic was certainly the one that kept going on and on in my head, especially when I first submitted my book to Hay House and I was rejected. My New York
Wow.
Times critic was like, "Who do you think you are? You have nothing original to say. The world is oversaturated with books on law of attraction. It's like, give it up, throw your book in the
Hmm.
garbage, home." And it's important to identify these voices of judgment so that you can then disidentify with them, because
Right.
when we were born they weren't there, but as we grew older, and people started saying things to us, parents, teachers, well-meaning and maybe not so well-meaning,
Right.
society, and then all of a sudden, we're wearing our crazy purple polka dotted pants, we're painting our Picasso, we're singing off key, we're these fully expressed little 5 and 6 year olds. And then somebody's like,
What he says. Yep.
yeah, those pants are ugly, you're weird, you can't sing, you're not an artist. And then over time, this little gremlin is born, and then it turns into an entire itty bitty shitty committee.
I
So
love it.
it's, you want to just say, okay, that's not, it's coming from, a part of me that's got some insecurities, or maybe I was told that I was no good or something from childhood, and I haven't gotten a chance to reprogram those belief systems. So the work really is just to identify it so that you can then dialogue with it and say, I
Sure.
hear you, for New York Times critic, and
Right.
I get that you're afraid that we're going to waste our time and that, the self-doubt is real, but talk to the hand because no one's listening.
No one's listening.
Mm.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to really just not listen because sometimes they're really, really loud. But as you said, I
Really?
think the more we practice our practices, any practice, just like, you take up cello, it's gonna sound horrible for the first,
Yeah.
few months, but over time,
That's
you'll
right.
start to hear
Look,
the sounds. Same
an
thing, right?
angel or something is like descending onto my head and the
I see
you
it.
see
I
all this like
see I see all the
magic
beautiful
hour
light.
coming
Yes.
out of the magic hour right now. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm
Um,
very well angelically lit.
you are. Rightfully so. Jen,
Yes.
I love how in your book you use your former experience as a trained actress to develop a tool for acting as if when we want to manifest. And you say that to properly manifest, we must believe in something that hasn't actually happened, but we have to feel as if it has.
Yeah.
And this is the ultimate key beyond the vision board up on the wall, right? Can you expand on that for us a little bit about that, having to feel it?
Yeah. Well, when, this whole book started because I had watched that movie, The Secret, like so many of us, right?
Yes.
And I
Uh-huh.
was like, okay, I ran out and I got the vision board and I got the magazine and I put everything, onto the vision board and I stuck it up on the wall and I was like, okay, let's go manifest. And like, of course, nothing happened. So I, went down this rabbit hole of starting to study quantum physics and starting to understand like how does the law of attraction work? And all I kept on reading and watching and hearing was you've got to feel it, that
Mhm.
there's a 0 point field that surrounds us all. And, they kind of call it, it's almost like the force in Star Wars. Think of that.
Yeah.
Everything is
Mhm.
energetically connected and things attract in magnetically and then reflect out.
Right.
And so if we want to attract in what we're wanting, it's based off of frequency of emotion. And I knew that, if you just think something positive, you put the vision board and you write the
The
intention and
cards.
you don't believe it or feel it. Like I remember at the time, I was like wanting to manifest love. And so my intention card was like, I feel excited that I am now in a healthy, conscious relationship. And like, I'm not believing it, because my other itty bitty shitty committee person, whose name is Esther, she's
Esther.
she's like 80. She smokes like 2 packs of Benson and Hedges. And she'd be like, Jennifer, you're gonna die an old lady with 20 cats. There's no men in Miami.
Oh
And
my
I'm just like,
goodness.
Esther, like, what are you
I'm
doing to me?
laughing because I can picture her in you. I can see you as
Totally,
Esther.
totally. And it's like, of course you're not going to feel love and you're not going to emanate that out to, the 0 point field. You're going to
Yeah.
feel lonely and frustrated and sad. And, I kept on thinking, well, like, how am I going to myself and teach my students how to manifest love if we're lonely? How do we, manifest abundance if we're growing broke? Like, how do you feel something? And a light bulb just went on that this is what actors do,
Yeah.
thinking about the 0 point field as the audience. When you see Meryl Streep up on a screen, don't you believe
Mm,
everything that woman is saying?
everything. That's why she
Right,
wins all the time.
right, because she's a seasoned actor, and seasoned actors, they actually are truly feeling the feelings of the character. And there's a very famous acting teacher, and I studied under one of her mentors, Uta Hagen, mentees, Uta Hagen. And they teach you how to utilize a actor's tool called substitution.
Mm.
So, for example, if you've got a love scene with somebody, and you just don't like this actor, but you've got to come onto the stage or the screen, and you've got to convince the audience that you're in love with this person.
Right. You
Well,
gotta
guess
sell
what
it.
the actors are doing backstage, right? They're going back into their memories, and they're
Mm.
going back into the time. So as actors, we have like files of memories. Like, if I need to cry, I'm going to think of the time that my dog died. And if I'm going to laugh, I'm going to think of this. And if I'm going to feel love, I'm going to think of my first crush, Ben Noble, sixth
Ah.
grade. And like, I could just take myself there. I never forget going into the gym, and it was a school carnival. Like, I could see the paper mache, I could hear the squeak of the sneakers, I could feel Ben's little lips on my cheek when
Oh.
he married me at the school carnival. And just, you go back there sensory, and you just start feeling the rush of love. And I thought, hmm,
Hmm.
what if we do this for manifesting? What if we, go back to a time where we did feel the love, where we did feel the abundance, and then start feeling those feelings, and then, start visualizing this mind movie of our future self with the emotion attached to it. And all of a sudden, the acceleration of the manifestation process was just like that. So I'm like, huh. And then I remember Wayne Dyer read my first manuscript, and he said, "You have an original contribution to the topic of
Yes.
manifestation. Like, this is it."
I
So,
remember I remember reading your book and thinking, wow, this
yeah,
is there's something here that's different than other books that I've read because there was a lot of books at that time that The Secret came out. Everybody was jumping on
yeah,
writing a book about the
everybody
law of
was.
attraction, and you did it a little while after, still within that time frame, but I love that you use your background to bring something and contribute something new and different to it.
Yeah,
So we get clear, we set our intentions, we start feeling as if, but then
we cleared the
we
voices.
we clear the voices, but we got to get off the couch. So
Yes.
why is it so hard for us to get off the couch? It's easy to imagine the life that we want.
Yeah,
Actually putting the action steps and working towards it, I think that's where a lot of people just stop short.
yeah.
So why is it hard to
Usually,
get off the couch?
I think what's mainly under that is just the fear of failure and the fear of
Oh.
success. And how we show up is we say things like, "Well, I'm a perfectionist,"
Mhm.
or say different things of why we're not doing it. And if instead we could just really get honest with ourselves and go, "Okay, why am I really, it's work, it's this, it's the kids." We have a million different excuses or reasons why it's not happening. And all of that is tap dancing,
Mm.
over the fear of failure, fear of success. So I always say to people, just ask yourself, what's the worst that will happen if you fail? And they'll usually say, well, I'll look stupid, people will laugh, and, it will have been a waste of time. And, I said, well, here's like the clue in nobody's paying attention. Like, we think that
Yeah,
everybody is like stalking our Facebook, like
right.
waiting for us to launch our dreams so that they can watch us fail and laugh at us. Like, they're too busy
Kids
worried
are
about
busy
stuff, right?
and
Their
with
own
their own dramas and their own fears and
family.
their own things going
Yeah.
on.
So we're just, it's so silly and not silly at the same time. But then I say, okay, so if that happened, could you handle it?
Right.
And they're like, yeah, I wouldn't like it, but I could handle it. Okay, great. So then now what's the best that could happen?
Let's just
Well,
try
I
and
could
get
get
over it.
this out there and I could change lives and this and that. And okay, so are you willing to risk looking stupid, being wrong, wasting time for the fact that you may change thousands of lives? Are you willing to risk that for this greatness? And then they say, yeah, I am.
Mm, yeah. Yeah,
And success too. People are afraid of success.
I will tell you, I think, I'm probably a little of both, and I've
I
had
think
to
we
get
all are.
we all are, yeah, I think, I've had to get pretty honest with myself and dig deep as to why I wasn't pushing myself further, and I don't mean pushing myself further in a bad way or not a compassionate way, but kind of playing small.
Right.
There's a real sweet story
Or
that I
safe,
heard.
maybe, or
Say that again?
safe.
Or
I don't know if
safe.
it's small. You play safe. You don't play that small.
Okay, well, thank
You're
you.
always
That's good to
pretty
know.
big and out there, you impress. You have a daughter and there's that safety and that part of you that is so wonderful that can be very, practical and reasonable. And let's not do anything silly here. And that's a great quality to have,
Thank you.
right?
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I was well,
That's how you're feeling
I was
anyway. You don't care anymore.
I was gonna say there's a story that I heard Oprah say, back in last year in January, um, that she talked about how at one point in her life, she wanted to just manifest a home with a backyard big enough for 6 oak trees.
Hmm.
And that was, like, just her thing. She thought, "I've never had 6 oak trees." So 6 oak trees to her sounded like a really great thing. And she went on to tell the story of how she felt she was playing kinda small and not dreaming big enough.
Hmm.
And the home that she lives in now, and I don't know which of the many it is, I don't know if it's the one in Santa Barbara,
Yeah.
Hawaii, or where. I think it's the one in Hawaii where she does her Super Soul Sundays, and she actually had somebody come and count the trees now. She says, "'Cause, you can hire people that do that for you these days." I'm like, "Yes, of course, if you're Oprah Winfrey, you
On
can
my
pay somebody
trees.
to count your trees." The beauty of the story, Jen, is that she now has 1,500 trees on her property. 1,500 oak trees, or just, I forget what the particular tree is. And her point to us as the audience was that all I wanted was just 6 trees. That's all I was asking for. I didn't have the vision of 1,500
Right.
trees at the time, way back when. So I
Yeah.
think it's just a beautiful story that sometimes we don't think in bigger terms, and to know that we're
Yeah.
supported by the universe at all
Totally.
times. Um,
I get that.
and I think a lot of that really requires us to sort of let go of things, which has been another difficult lesson for me in my life. And I know that in the last chapter of your book, you talk about really learning to let go and
Mhm.
allowing and living in the energy of non-attachment, which is kind of like, wow, that's tough. Um, but how do we do that when when for many of us we have this certain need of, I'll say it, control,
Yeah.
and the need to know and the need to kind of hold on to certain things? How do
Mhm.
we live in that?
Well, I think that physicalizing letting go is very helpful, like doing physical acts of releasing because our mind, it's so hard. Like we're like, just let go. And you're like, I can't, I
Yeah.
can't. It's like so ridiculous, right? And so, imagine maybe you've lost a love, and you're going through a heartbreak, doing some writing, some burning, going to the ocean and letting, it wash out like every great memory and then letting it go. And then another and letting it go. Or floating in the ocean, a pool, a bath, letting the water support you, feeling what it feels like to be held in a state
Mm,
of surrender, even in a yoga practice, even doing relaxing things like massages, but ceremonial tasks of letting things go and releasing and burning and burying, and that really helps. But for me, it wasn't the last thing, but it was like all of the other things in my own book, I was able to, I hate to even say the word master because I feel at the age of 50, I'm not even close to being a master.
We're all
Um,
learning. Yeah.
mastering the work. And I know the day that the tool was real and not just like, yeah, I let go of it. You're right. Was when I was on a plane going to Africa, and I actually start my second book out with this story.
That story
And
is everything. I know I'll never forget when you said it. So please share it with us
yeah,
today.
yeah, and I had been rushing through JFK to get on a plane to go to, Nairobi. And I went through the TSA, get on the plane. I was happily upgraded to first class, rushing, sit back. I'm so excited. I now have 8 hours to like work on my book, uninterrupted time from New York to Amsterdam, and then another 8 hours to Africa. And I pull out my computer from my laptop to get my laptop, and it's not mine. And I just looked at it and I was like, huh. Hmm. And I actually waited for the panic to come. I was like, why aren't I not panicking? Like, where's the freak out? Like, no, like you can't fake that.
No.
Like it was nothing. And I was like, that's really interesting that this isn't my laptop.
Mm.
Okay.
Oh gosh.
And then I rang the bell and I told her, she goes, "You're really calm." And I was like, "Yeah, I teach this. I think it's the first time I actually am living it. This is really interesting."
Yeah.
And all I keep on thinking is, you know what? There's going to be a reason.
Right.
I'm going to trust that this is all happening for my benefit. And I'm not going to let this ruin my day.
Oh, what surrender.
Surrender. And
Amazing.
I went,
Amazing.
pulled out the book, and I said, I guess I'm not supposed to work. And it turned out that I got there, called the woman, you know, she works for Entrepreneur Magazine. We were in a talk for her to do an article about me. It was just like this cool, like, and
Perfect.
she had my laptop. We met. She said, hold on to mine. I had taken hers by accident. And we met 10 days later in JFK. We swapped, and it was like nothing. And I didn't work. I got to relax the entire time on
There you
vacation,
go.
which is what I should be doing.
Right.
So, even yesterday, I had a webinar. We had 450 people sign up. And for some reason, my staff didn't change it where there could be more than 100. Only 100 people could get in, and we had spent, time, like it was really for me and my trainer, so I was more like, wow, for them. And, I felt the reaction coming up, and then I went, okay, drop the rope. And that's the title of the next book, Drop the Rope. The
Yay. I am
power of
so
letting
excited.
it go, and that's it. It's just when there's nothing you can do, do nothing because it's just not worth it.
That's a tweetable moment. I don't have Twitter, but if I did, that's a tweetable moment.
Me neither. I guess I do, but I don't pay attention to it
Do it.
much.
And with that, I have to say that today you live the life that you masterfully have manifested over the years, and you help others. And for the last, what, 10, 12 years, you've helped others direct their destiny through your courses, such as the one I took, the Creative Insight Journey, as well as through the Conscious Influencers Academy and Society, which is the business academy that you run with your business partner and our mutual friend, Brigitte Del Mar. I just wanted to ask you, is there anything you wanted to mention or share about either of those?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they should just work with you.
Oh, oh, there's plenty to go around for everybody. You have
Yeah,
you
there
have your
really
gifts
is.
and I have mine, but thank you. And
Yeah, yeah. I just I'm really blessed right now to be working with a company that's also just selling my programs and services. And so, right now my job is just to show up and serve.
I love that. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Well, Jennifer, every guest is asked this last question on the show. And because it's called A Cup of Clarity, I always like to kind of end with what has been a moment of clarity in your life, whether long ago or recently. And what did it teach you?
Hmm. That I am enough, that I
Mm,
have enough, and that I've done enough.
Ooh, say that one more time, please.
That I am enough, that I have enough, and I've done enough. And I actually started saying that at the very beginning of my career when I would feel that driving and striving and I should be doing more and how come I'm not further
Mhm.
along. And I would just say that and it would just be like medicine on me just to sit back, relax,
And
all the
flow.
time in the world. Where you are is
Yeah.
exactly where you're supposed to be and flow. And that
Yes.
just carried me through this, decade and plus career of just creating, putting myself out there without grasping and with just
Mm.
knowing that I don't need to compare myself to anybody, that I'm just me, and not to there's enough, like you said, there's enough glow for everybody. There's no
And you're an
competition.
amazing you, and I love you for that, and you're such joy, everywhere you go, you just, like, sprinkle your magic on people, and it's been a beautiful thing to see you just in your success over the years. I was at your book signing party, and I remember just how exciting
Sure.
that was, and, and right at the beginning when you started and taking your course. So, yeah, that's a perfect way to kind of end that, but I always like to close with just something quick and fun, and it's called the recommended segment. And so I'm going to give you 4 topics, and I'll just ask you, and you tell me what you recommend in each of them. We're going to go ahead and start with Netflix.
Okay, my latest favorite is Ginny and Georgia, a
Yes.
mother-daughter duo who don't really belong together, and it's a great show, and they really touch on some major stuff that teens are dealing with today, and I think it's an important show.
Yeah, it brings out great conversations if you watch it with your young teen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What about a book other than Directing Your Destiny? What's a book you feel either you've recently read or something you feel everyone should kind of read this book?
Well, that's The Surrender Experiment, by Michael Singer, and if you're really
Mm,
to learn that tool, he has been, I think it was me doing the work with him and going up to see him all the time, at the Temple of the Universe. He also wrote The Untethered Soul.
one of my
Um,
favorites.
that was my practice and really listening. He is my mentor, my spiritual teacher. And from working with him, I was able to let go of the laptop. Yeah. So
Amazing.
either of those books, but The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer, I think is
It's interesting.
really
I read his other one, and I just don't know that one, so that's gonna be next on my list. And you've traveled many places, so what's a destination that you recommend?
that's the hardest one, right? I will say this though, there's certain places where you go and you just feel like you're home as if
Yes.
maybe you've lived there or something like this. And for me, that's Greece. It's Santorini.
Mm,
Yeah.
it's one of
I've
my
been
bucket list
there
places.
3 times and it's just like, oh, I'm home. Hello.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I can't wait till certain things lift and we can just get back
Yeah.
to just free
Oh,
travel on a
yep,
whim, all that great
I
stuff.
know it.
And finally, a meditation. What's a meditation someone should listen to?
Well, I love the future self meditation that comes from the course that I teach. It's a really cool meditation that takes you on a journey 20 years into the future
Yeah.
where you get to meet the older, wiser, been there, done that version of you. And if anybody would like it as my gift, they can get it at I think jennifergrace.com/future self.
Perfect. And I remember that from the course. It's so wonderful. It really helps you visualize your life down the road.
Yeah.
And Jen, before we wrap up, do you have just any last closing parting words to this wonderful conversation today?
Yes. In the quiet, everything becomes clear.
Mm, so simple, but just
Yeah,
spot on.
that's it. Just yeah.
Find time for that quiet. Everything becomes clear. I love it.
Yeah, which is I'll show you my view as I depart here.
Mm,
There's
thank
my
you.
zen, my quiet. I have
Thank
definitely directed
you.
my destiny.
Straight to
Wound
that
up
place.
here with the love of my life on a lake, yeah, in the mountains, so and it's just for fun for a couple months until the next stop.
Like I said, you live it, you teach it, you live it, and you and you're the real deal. You're as authentic as they get. I love you for so many reasons. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today. It's been a
You.
pleasure sharing this time with you, and I'm really, really excited for the listeners to get to hear all of your insight and your wisdom, and to get your book. If you don't have it, folks, Directing Your Destiny, you can get it by Jennifer Grace on Amazon and any other place that they sell
Yeah.
books. And I don't know, is it on is it it's not on Audible or anything like that?
No, I do need to get to that. It's on the list.
Okay.
A lot of people ask me, so one of these days.
One of these days. All right.
Thanks so much, Jeanette. This has been wonderful.
Thank you. And for the listeners, I hope this episode sparked the insight within. To learn more about Jennifer Grace, you can visit her website at jennifergrace.com. And if you'd like to follow her on social media, you can meet her at the Jennifer Grace on Instagram and Facebook. To get this episode's toolkit, you can head on over to my website at JeanetteMelian.com and click on the podcast tab. Until next time, I send you love and light. May your cup be full and overflowing.